After we've done our lovely front cover, we always like to do an introductory page to welcome us into the sketchbook. What we've done here is, let me just reveal it. We've done a wax resist. We've used oil pastel and some coffee stain to set this front cover out to introduce us to our new sketchbook. We've also done a sheet here. Because oil pastel is quite sticky, we need a protective sheet just to keep this side of the sketchbook clean, and I'll show you how to do that later. I just want to show you a couple of techniques first. First of all, how to do the wax resist, what it actually means, and how to do these little star shapes that we use all the way through the sketchbook to create our presentation. I'm just going to show you a couple of techniques in my little scrapbook here. This is some coffee stain. All it is instant coffee with some cold water. And you can just leave that, put plenty of coffee in so it gives it a nice rich colour. We'll be using the oil pastels for that. So you can see here I've got 4 different shades of oil pastel, but I'm just going to use perhaps this colour on my little sketchbook to show you what the technique of wax resist actually is. Just do that little anchor shape. I do my shape with my oil pastel, and then I'm going to get my coffee stain, get a nice large brush, and I'm going to put my coffee stain on top, and because oil and water don't mix, that oil pastel stays nice and vibrant and doesn't disappear. So that's our wax resist technique. And then I'm going to show you how to do the star. And what I've done here is I've got a rubber stamp, and what you need to do is get an adult to help you cut this shape out. I've just drawn it on with a pencil, quite simply, just drawn the little star shape. And then an adult can help you cut the shape out. And then what I do is I put some thicker paint on here. And then I get my little stamp, squidge it about in the paint. Then you can have a little practice run first, and that makes your little star shapes. With that in mind, we should be ready to start this page. So I'm just going to pop that this side. I'm going to close this for now, and I'm going to bring my sketchbook over. I've cheated a little bit, and I've done 2 boxes, one here, and I've drawn another box slightly bigger down on the bottom of the page. You can see I'm just going over the drawing a little bit more. To look as if it folds over, I've curved the edge of this box and then just done a little shape like that, and it just looks as if the wind has caught the edge of my sketchbook and curled it over. It's really simple. It's just a shape like that, and then a curve there. And it just looks like a piece of paper being caught over by the wind. Now this one, I think I will just curve it here. A little curve there. So that one's just caught the edge of the wind on that side. I'm going to keep this quite simple down here because I want quite a lot of my design in there. And as you can see, I've done a small bit of very light lettering on here, and it reads, "This is my sketchbook of the sea." But I'll do that in wax resist as well later on. I'm going to start off with my shapes down here. I've decided to start off with my 3 anchors. So picking up my oil pastel, nice and bold. If you feel a little bit unconfident, do it like me. Do a little bit of pencil underneath first. And if your oil pastel breaks, it doesn't matter. It means you've got 2 instead of 1. Put your shapes on. I'm keeping them in a nice straight line. So I'm going to get 3 bright green anchors across the top. And then I'm going to change my colour. I'm going to use this nice turquoise blue, and I love the shape of those nautilus shells and a lovely curve. So I've chosen to do these ones next, and to accentuate the curve I'm just doing some little shapes like that. So I'm going to do again 3 of those, and they're going to go underneath, one underneath the other. That makes a really nice design for our sketchbook. Again, some little tiny pieces there to really show the curve of the nautilus shell, and one more over here. I really like oil pastel. It's got a lovely rich texture to it. It's quite sticky, but I quite like it. And then my third design, I'm going to use this colour, and I'm going to do 3 sailing boats, very simple sailing boats. I'm keeping the shapes really simple. I'm not doing any shading. I'm just using a nice bold outside line. And the thing with oil pastel is you can never be particularly exact, but I think that gives it quite a nice effect. 2 little portholes. So the next one's going to go under here. There's my mast. Comes my boat. Not colouring them in because the colour of the coffee will fill in the white areas. So I'm keeping this a very, very simple line drawing. No shading, no texture, nice and simple. And a little flag on top. What I want to do next is I want to do my lettering at the top, because I want to introduce this book to everyone who opens it up so they know this is my sketchbook of the sea. So here comes my lettering, nice bold lettering. Again, draw it out in pencil first if you feel a little bit unsure. It also helps you realise your design a little bit more if you sketch it out first. You don't run out of space. So you know that all your lettering fits in. It's always a bit fiddly on some of these because the oil pastel is a bit fat and chunky. There we go. This is my sketchbook of Okay, so there's a bit of lettering there. Now what I'm going to do is get my palest colour, and I'm going to use it on its edge, and all in one direction. Don't change direction because it tends to make it look a bit scruffy. One gentle direction. I'm going to go round the outside of my 2 shapes that have got my drawings and my title inside. So I'm going to bring it down here. So again, you can see I'm keeping it all in one direction, allowing it to flow all the way down. If you go into your boxes a little bit, it doesn't matter. And that blue is just like the sea. It's always good with a sketchbook. We always try and aim to get rid of as much of the white paper as possible. Before I put any coffee stain on, I'm just going to do a little bit of titling and a border using a biro and a black pen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to accentuate my border. Now what might happen is the oil pastel might stick to the end of your pen. But don't worry, we can always pick up another one. We're going around the edge. Now that really does show now that fold of paper. So it's been caught by the wind. So now I'm going to do this bit. I tend to do this freehand. I try not to use a ruler because I just think it has a nicer, more natural feel if you don't use a ruler. I think rulers can be too harsh. And I quite like it when you get 2 or 3 lines going over each other. I think that's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to do a bit of a border around the edge, and I'm going to repeat two words, the sea, all the way round. Now this is where my pen might start to not like working on the oil pastel. So I keep repeating the sea. Because you're repeating the writing, it begins to look like a pattern, which is quite nice. So when someone looks at your sketchbook, they really have to look to see what it actually says. There we go, that's good, that's worked. Now we're going to do the resist bit for our wax resist. So in with a coffee stain. Now we're going to keep the coffee stain in here. So you can see that the oil pastel doesn't mix with the coffee. And it just gets rid of that very bright whiteness that you have of the page and begins to pull it all together. It's such a simple technique but really, really effective. You can use it in your coloured drawing work later. In fact, we'll be using it through the book quite a lot. It actually sometimes makes the oil pastel colours look a lot brighter. If you want it a bit darker, you can. You can always let that dry and put a second coat on. I don't want it too dark. And then what I'm going to do is take a little bit more coffee and I'm going to go very carefully over my writing and around the edge, just to tie this part of my book in. Very carefully going over lettering, which it really makes the lettering stand out a little bit more as well. Doesn't matter if it goes into the seam of your sketchbook, it'll dry. Okay, so that's that bit there. Now, final little thing I want to do on this page is my little corner stars. So again, I'm going to put my blue paint out and squidge it around on my sketchbook and get my little stamp. Hope you don't get too much on because you don't want to sort of overload it. And I'm going to have one in each corner. I'm going to have one there and one here. I'm going to have another one there and another one here. What I now need to do is to make my protective cover. So I've got some tracing paper, or you can use baking paper, and that fits exactly on top. So this shape here I've drawn there, and this shape here I've drawn exactly there, so they kind of mirror each other. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to squeeze some more paint out. Squish it around a bit, and I've worked it out that I will get 4 stars down here and 6 across the top. So I'm going to start with those first. So I'm going to do this, 2, So even our protective sheet, we're giving it some decoration as well, which is really nice. You could have different colours. You could have blue and white, like the waves, or blue and green. I would try and stick with sea colours, because then that will fit the whole look of the sketchbook. Okay, so that's that bit done. So, when that's dry, what you will do is you will lie that on top, and then that protects what's underneath. What you can do is put a little bit of glue down here and glue it on so that that sheet opens like that and reveals the start of your sketchbook. But you can do that later when it dries. That is the start of our sketchbook, and that is known as Wax Resist. And it just gives a nice introduction to your new sketchbook.